Hey guys, it's Mason. This discussion board, we are going to talk about maneuvering the airplane back on the final approach course if you get blown off, and we're also going to talk about, or a little bit about, as far as having poor maneuvering skills with your airspeeds coming into land. The first thing I wanted to talk about is there's a lot of accidents just from airplanes turning from base to final and overshooting or over not having enough correction in due to possibly wind directions, not crabbing into the wind, turning on final and not taking account for that. So therefore they overshoot the final approach course, and now they're caught zigzagging trying to get back to it. And if you have the wrong airspeeds coming in like that, it can obviously create a crash. The first thing I want to talk about real quick is the base to final speeds. I'm sure there's a lot of instructors teach a little bit different. I was taught on the downwind leg. On the downwind leg, you should be shooting in a Cessna 172. You should be shooting for about 80 knots, and then between your 45 degrees downwind to turning to your base leg, slow it down to about 70 knots, and then base to final 60 to 65 knots, and that's where you should bring it on in at. That's just how I was taught. Now the thing with that is, if you're at 60 to 65 knots, 70 knots, basically what you're doing is you've got the airplane slowed down, so you're already at a really slow speed. So if you go to turn at like a standard rate turn, or if you go to turn sharp to try to get back on course, you lose your lift. And we all know what happens if you lose your lift. You lose your lift, you're going down. And then you've got to have the muscle memory for stall recovery. That is critical. You know, you've got to know if stall horn goes off and the nose breaks down, you can't just sit there and pull back on the yoke, because you know you've got to train yourself. You know, carb heat in, power in, all the way. Dip the nose slowly below the horizon, let it build speed, and then come up. You cannot pull back on the yoke because it'll send you into a deeper stall. The last thing I want to talk about is going to be wind consideration. You need to know where the wind direction is coming from at all times, especially if you're in the traffic pattern. In order to maintain a good square or rectangle traffic pattern, you're going to have to crab on one of your legs at least, you know, because you're not going to have perfect weather with zero winds 90% of the time, 99% of the time. So you're going to always have to have crab angle on one of your legs. Know where your wind directions come. That'll help you coming from base to final. If you need to overshoot your turn because you know you're going to be going against the wind, or if you need to undershoot the turn because the wind's blowing you further. It's critical to know where the wind's coming from. And then also, you know, don't turn sharp. You know, I'd probably do half standard rate turns if you're at, you know, slow speeds such as 60, 65 knots, because that's another thing that's really dangerous, is overturning or overbanking, and you lose your lift. And you know, it puts you in a sticky situation that's not favorable. So thanks guys. Enjoy the video, and see you guys later in class.